Request of the Carmel Association of Christ the King to take over the governance of our monastery is in effect a hostile takeover that we cannot in conscience accept. Accepting the decision would risk the integrity of our monastery, our liturgical and spiritual life, and the material assets of the monastery.
By the way, my name is Joe McClane. I host a radio program called A Catholic Take, where we look at the world through a Catholic lens. I'd love for you to hang out with us. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below.
But there's a story that I want to catch up on that we haven't talked about now in many months. But the headline over at LifeSite says, Vatican names new head of Texas Carmel after year-long conflict with Bishop Olson. Now, just truth in advertising here, I've been to this convent in Fort Worth several times. What a beautiful little chapel they have there. Wonderful place to attend Holy Mass and retreat. I've been there several times, and I couldn't have recommended it enough. And frankly, when this all broke, it was quite surprising, to say the least. But I want to read this article to you to catch you up on the latest on this story. It says the Vatican has intervened once more in the case of a traditional convent in Texas, which shot to international fame after a months-long conflict between the nuns and the local bishop, which ultimately led to his removing the Mother Superior and the convent rejecting his authority. On April the 18th, Bishop Michael Olson of the Diocese of Fort Worth, Texas, issued a letter to the diocese announcing the formal entrustment of the Carmelite monastery of the Most Holy Trinity, so its overarching Carmelite body, namely the Association of Christ the King in the United States of America. With the formal entrustment coming from the Vatican's Congregation, now dicastery for Institutes of Consecrated Life, Olson stated that the association had directly petitioned the Vatican for this outcome and had done so with Olson's counsel and full support. Quote, the petition was made to help restore the Arlington Carmel to good health and unity with the local and universal church, and to provide effective leadership, and needed assistance to the nuns from within the Carmelite order, close quote, he wrote. Since May 31st of last year, Olson had been serving as the pontifical commissary to the Carmelite convent, meaning that he had, under direct decree from the Vatican, quote, full governing powers, close quote, over the community. According to the Vatican, Mother Maria of the Incarnation, the president of the U.S. Association of Christ the King, will now become the lawful superior of the Arlington Carmel. Forming the Arlington Carmel of the unilateral decision of the dicastery stated that Mother Maria had requested the entrustment from the Vatican on March the 12th, along with the unanimous support of the members of the monasteries, excluding the Arlington Carmel. The dicastery's decree was signed by its secretary and undersecretary, two female religious, though not by the cardinal prefect. The two religious cited Pope Francis's text on religious life, Vultum Dei and Qurans, and issuing their decree, the latter especially, which has been described as a, quote, cruel and merciless, close quote, assault against contemplative orders. The Arlington Carmel responded April the 20th by stating that both Olson and the Vatican had made no dialogue with the nuns about the entrustment and the publication of the decree. They didn't even go and ask them, hey, how do you feel about this? What is your thoughts? What are you thinking right now? How are you feeling? Should we light a candle and make a prayer? I mean, nothing. Zero, zilch, nada. They just did this. It goes on, the request of the Carmel Association of Christ the King to take over the governance of our monastery, made with the counsel and full support of Bishop Olson, which Rome has accepted without our knowledge or consent, is in effect a hostile takeover that we cannot in conscience accept, close quote, read the statement from the Carmel. The Carmel added that accepting the decision would, quote, risk the integrity of our monastery as a community, threatening the vocations of individual nuns, our liturgical and spiritual life, and the material assets of the monastery. This outside authority could easily disperse us, impose its agenda in respect of our daily observance, and dispose of our assets, even of the monastery itself, as it wishes, contrary to our vows and to the intentions of those who founded our community and our benefactors, which is interesting because that's actually happened to other religious communities, several, as a matter of fact. And if I'm not mistaken, most, if not all of the others were traditional or traditionally minded. Consequently, they declined to admit Mother Maria or any delegate of hers at the current time. So they are blocking this new appointed Mother Superior from actually entering the convent. In an unusual move, the dicastery wrote to the Arlington Carmel stating that since the term of office of the prioress, subprioress, and counselors had expired on January the 14th, and that since Olson had not been contacted to arrange supervision over elections for new superiors, the Vatican had decided that the Carmel has a total absence of lawful governance. The Arlington Carmel replied that such a technical element can be solved in any number of other ways, including by Rome's extension of such terms of office for a suitable period while the issues at hand are addressed equitably. They added that such a change should not take place while an appeal is underway. So they're appealing these decisions back to the Vatican, and they're hoping to have, resolution. In the meantime, they want to put a pause to all this, but it would seem that there's no intent for a pause. Thus, referencing their 2023 appeal to the Vatican, which has gone unanswered. Why wouldn't the Vatican answer that appeal, even if it was to deny it, right? Like maybe the Vatican doesn't agree with them. Maybe the Vatican agrees with Bishop Olson, which is very likely. So why doesn't the Vatican just say that? Why not answer it? I think that's the part that gets me about it. Is it seems rather strange to me. Why, if where's the charity? If my children were angry about a decision I made and they appealed to me about that decision and I just ignored them, would that make me a good parent? Doesn't seem so. Seems similar here. The article goes on. The Vatican's installation of Mother Maria comes 11 months after the convoluted and fast-paced conflict between the Arlington Carmel and Bishop Olson became public, culminating a process of many months. In August, the nuns wrote they, quote, no longer recognize the authority, close quote, of Olson, citing the, quote, unprecedented interference, intimidation, aggression, private and public humiliation, and spiritual manipulation as the direct result of the attitudes and ambitions of the current Bishop of Fort Worth in respect of our Reverend Mother Prioress, ourselves, and of our property, close quote. The Vatican has now demanded that the Carmel irregularize their relationship with Olson by withdrawing the August statement. The Carmel wrote April 20th, that while they recognize the legitimacy of Pope Francis and Bishop Olson, they still withdraw our cooperation in respect of the unjust exercise of any authority over us by the current Bishop of Fort Worth. So they recognize the bishop's authority and the Vatican, of course, but they just think it's an abuse of authority, an abuse of power, and they are trying to take as many options as they have at their disposal legally to do something about that. So that's their position. A little bit of the background here says, as LifeSite News has extensively reported, the Carmelite Monastery and its former prioress, Mother Teresa Gerlach, have been at the center of a dispute with Olson since late April of 23. So it's been a year now, owing to his investigation into an unannounced visitation upon the convent. The case became increasingly public and involved. The nuns filed a civil lawsuit against Olson due to what was described as his illegal, unholy, unwarranted, explicit, and systematic assault upon the sanctuary and autonomy of the plaintiffs and the sisters. How do you feel about the fact that they went to the civil court? Are you okay with that? I mean, I'm recalling St. Paul's chastisement of one of the churches that he founded for taking cases amongst Christians to the civil authorities. And, he expects them to take it to the church. Matthew 18, our Lord makes it clear. If you have a dispute amongst your brother, you take it to the church. So how do we feel about these nuns taking it to civil authority? But the flip side of that argument might be for further consideration that, well, they've taken it to the church, but the Vatican has, as this article makes clear, the Vatican has refused to even answer the plea, the appeal. They have not even answered it. So are the nuns just taking every option that they can possibly muster to state their case, to make their argument? Have they extended? Have they gone too far? Would St. Paul be disappointed in them? I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.